Welcome back to Common Sense. I'm Wendy Bell. The most important amendment to the United States Constitution is certainly the first. It's the one that protects our freedom to say what we want, when we want, and where we want to say it. The First Amendment is so important, in fact, it's followed by the second. But who needs guns to back up our freedoms when the majority of us apparently rarely say what we really feel about almost anything political? That's what a survey of nearly 20,000 people finds. We do not say publicly what we feel privately inside. We're not honest with pollsters. We don't tell door knockers what we think. But who would want to? We've all seen people get doxxed, banned, protested, canceled, ridiculed, harassed, and fired for speaking the truth. And that's just what's happened to me. Why would anybody want to say what they really feel about anything? But self-censoring comes at a cost. Because not saying what we really feel gives us crazy, like men competing as women, children scrambling their hormones, people chanting death to Jews. You know, all that totally rational stuff. Wait until you hear what we don't say honestly out loud in public anyhow. It's crazy. Steve Sanchez hosts the Steve Sanchez Show on KDWN Las Vegas. Wendy Patrick hosts Today with Dr. Wendy on KCBQ Radio The Answer San Diego. And Chris Arps co-hosts the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on News Talk St. Louis 1019, 94.1 FM. All right, so the headline here, Steve, I'm going to start with you. Nearly 2/3 of us hide what we really think about contentious issues when we're in public. 58% of Americans say they cannot express their private opinions publicly. 61% admit to self-silencing their political viewpoints. And broken down even further, only 36% of Democrats say in public that they trust the government to tell the truth. Only 5%, though, believe that privately. Steve, that is nuts.
That's the problem. We've lost our boldness. We've lost our grit. You know, I don't sometimes blame the establishment for this. I blame ourselves. When did it become fashionable to shut our mouths? We never used to do that. That's not who we are as Americans. Obviously, let's just look at our history. So, you know, we have to take some self-reflection here. And what now drives us? Okay, yeah, I know they're going to dox us. I know they're going to do this. I know they're going to do that. Does that really matter? I mean, shouldn't we fight up against the narrative that if you don't fall in line and if you say something that we don't like, we're going to come and get you? I believe if millions of us stood up and spoke up all the time, they wouldn't have the kind of power that they think they have.
100%. I agree 100%. You know, only 16% of Republicans publicly say that they trust the media to tell the truth. Only 3%, though, actually feel that way privately. And the chasm is even bigger on the left. 42% of Democrats, Chris, say publicly they trust the media to tell the truth. Only 9% of Democrats actually believe that privately. So none of us trusts the news. Like, who wants to tell David Muir? Chris, you?
You know, we've seen these instances over the last few years, especially during the last presidential election cycle with the Hunter Biden laptop scandal, where they basically scrubbed that from the internet. They put out the lies from these so-called experts saying that this was not a legitimate complaint, that this was false. And then I think the nail in the coffin of why people really don't believe the media now is what we've seen the last 3.5 years. The media has hidden from us the fact that Joe Biden is not competent to become president.
Yes.
They've hid him away. He works between 11 and 4 o'clock. We all saw that. Democrats, Republicans, and independents saw that he was not working a full load, that he was forgetting names, that he was introducing dead people at campaign events. But the media was telling us, who are you going to believe, us or your lying eyes? And I think even though, you know, the media are cheerleaders for the Democrats, and a lot of people still cheer for them, still for them, I think even they see that the media has not been telling us the truth.
Agreed. Wendy, you're a lot nicer person than I am, so I think you'll like this. This is this is super interesting. The survey finds that 9 out of 10 Americans are privately on the same side of about 2/3 of all the hot button political issues, including abortion, school choice, voter ID, legal immigration, but that it's college graduates and it's independents who are the least comfortable sharing their private views in public. Why do you imagine, Dr. Wendy?
Because I think they subscribe to the theory of a closed mouth gathers no foot. And they worry about saying the wrong thing and paying the price. But silence is not golden when it comes to sharing opinions.
No.
You know, we can watch the news, we can compare what different networks are covering. But we have to temper that with regular people in our family and with our friends, personally and professionally. And some of the younger generation, if they talk to begin with, I know we become a society of texters, just need to get
Yes.
out and really expose themselves to different viewpoints. It's a wonderful thing that we have done growing up. And I can only hope that
Right.
there's a reigniting of that passion. And by the way, this entire conversation maybe is a lens through which we should react to some of the latest poll numbers and not really think we really know anything about how close the race is.
Right. And this is kind of interesting. Generation Z appears to be surprisingly mainstream. They land on the same side as the general public on 90% of the questions asked. The issues where Gen Z differs from the rest of America: climate change and immigration. Steve, why do you think? I mean, is that what they're getting indoctrinated into? Why do you think?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Government schooling indoctrinated them. You know, it was cool and fashionable to hug a tree, to talk about Mother Nature. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I just hate to be as blunt as I am, but I think we're missing that in America. Let's be blunt. Let's tell them the truth. I've said for a long time, government schools are now a recruiting ground for liberal lunatics in 20 years to come. This is what's happened. I'm not trying to put down all teachers. I think there's a lot of great teachers, but there's a lot of teachers that are there because they're activists first, teachers second. This is the problem.
And Wendy, the children that grew up watching Captain Planet are now having children.
Interesting. So what do you mean by that for people who are unfamiliar?
Well, I think, 30 years ago, these children were indoctrinated with Captain Planet, where we're destroying the planet, we have to save it. So you had a whole generation that's been indoctrinated with that. Now they're having children. So it's kind of a double indoctrination thing going there.
Are these the people who are giving their children who are one cell phones? I just was thinking about that,
Yeah. And letting
this
them
is
choose their
interesting.
gender.
That's right. And you know what? Americans also want a meritocracy. This kind of gives me some hope. A majority of almost every demographic studied privately believes that college admissions, as well as hiring and promotions at work, should be based on an individual's performance and not their box checking. So I guess, Wendy, I should ask you, who wants to tell BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street that?
Well, I think we've designated Chris as a spokesperson for the panel, given his stances on some of the other issues. So I think Chris should spread the news. But, that is a great note to end on in terms of, meritocracy is hard to argue against. We all grew up with it. The younger generation has it ingrained. We all do. And it's one of those things that I feel the pendulum is going to swing, as it has on so many other social issues. And we will begin to value hard work yet again.
I agree. Well, I think you guys are fantastic. Thank you so much for being a part of the show today. And for everybody at home, we were talking earlier about polls. Polls tell us this race could come down to the wire. Everybody says, oh, it's neck and neck. It's Trump and Harris, a nail biter. Really? Let's check the vice president's record and recall how you and I have paid the price for it. Coming up next on Common Sense.